So I'm very happy to be here, and I thank the organizers, Animesh, Sarvesh, Bhargav, and Nishant, and for inviting me here. And I've also visited IPS Academy, and IIT Delhi. So I know what kind of developments are going on there, and I'm pretty impressed by the work that is going on there. So the CPS conference, as Sarvesh has mentioned, it's the 5th conference, and it's a very apt subject to be taken up as a series of conference because often simulations are compartmentalized. Sometimes they are used only for validating something or as an engineering design thing. But its true potential and the versatile nature is not often recognized. And today in my talk, I like to concentrate on one very important aspect, that how through simulations you can connect frontier physics to certain fundamental aspects. So that is the theme of my talk. And for that, I have chosen a specific example, and that is about laser plasma interaction, which you all know. It's a frontier area of research. And the technological progress has been immense. With the CPA technology, we have petawatt class lasers. Now they are available. There are new labs which have come up. And the experimental investigations have unraveled many interesting phenomena related to particle acceleration, energetic particle generation, and now even lab astro and QED effects, quantum electrodynamic effects are proposed to be investigated. And here, numerical simulations have provided significant fundamental understanding. And as I mentioned, I'll illustrate it with a recent example on laser energy absorption. And this is essentially the outline of my talk. So how does the energy of the laser gets absorbed by matter? That's a very important question. It has a lot of applications. And it ionizes the matter, first of all. The intensities are so high. So basically, one is concentrating that how laser transfers energy to the charged particle. So this is the focus. And the focus of research all along has been that how efficiently to transfer energy from laser to plasma species, and whether we can maneuver it, like absorb the laser energy at a particular location, desired location, for energy damping, or to a particular species like electrons or ions and so on. And if you look at it, generally it is all tied up to a key ingredient, and that is irreversible energy transfer. So if you look at the simple example of a pendulum or an oscillator, if you drive it with a driving frequency, even if it is in resonance, if you do not have any dissipative mechanism to have a certain phase shift, there won't be any irreversible transfer. So here the question of irreversibly comes into, and this is the example. So energy basically does not stick. So it has to be transferred irreversibly. So if you have a the equations, if you look at the oscillator equations, they are essentially reversible in time. So if the driver gives energy to the oscillator, in the next half of the cycle, the driver can get the energy back. So how is it that you transfer the energy irreversibly? That is the question which comes. And there one has to break the time reversal symmetry. That can happen through damping, noise or stochasticity, or if you have a nonlinearity, like if you drive it to very high amplitude and the nonlinear effects come into picture, or you have a bath. If the oscillator is interacting with the bath, transfers its energy to them. So as thinly distributed the energy gets, it is difficult for it to give it back to the driver. A simple example can illustrate it. Supposing you have your purse and it's in an isolated region, somebody pickpockets you. You know this person has, and it depends on your strength to take it back from him, right? Your money can be recovered. You can fight with the person and get the money back. That interaction can be inelastic. Both of you can get injured. You have to go to the hospital, you waste your money there. Or it can be elastic. You can get the money back. Same here, when there is a inelastic collision, the energy is dissipated into heat. So you have some dissipative mechanism. And, or if it is an elastic collision, you keep transferring, right? Now supposing there is a mob and the pickpocket picks your purse and passes it on or distributes the money. It is impossible for you to get the money back. Same with energy. So this idea you have to remember, and that is how irreversibility becomes important. Now how does the laser energy get absorbed? It is similar. The charge particle, a single charge particle motion is like an oscillator. And it is clear that if you have a single particle interacting with the laser field, it will not gain energy unless this particle collides with the other particles. So that becomes very important. Or if you have a resonance mechanism to drive through some collective effects of plasma, and many particles gets involved, so then also there can be a irreversible transfer. So there are many collective modes in the problem, and that are usually utilized. The electrostatic mode and the electromagnetic plasma modes have been given here, and you have to utilize them to have an irreversible transfer. Now, what are the conventional schemes of absorption in this? Typically, for fast lasers, the energy gets absorbed with the lighter electron species, and then it transfers to ion through collisional and or collective anomalous processes. These are the sum of the, where does it go? These are the sum of the techniques which transfer energy irreversibly: collisional, resonance excitations of waves, vacuum heating, J cross B heating, etc. So essentially the crux of the theme is that you generate electrostatic waves, because electromagnetic waves simply make the particle moves orthogonal to the propagation direction. So you generate electrostatic wave which move along the propagation axis, and there if the wave breaking occurs, then you will see, like the waves in the ocean, you will see that they are coming up here, and then there is a breaking, and this breaking heats up the plasma. So there is a two-stage process. When you excite collective modes, it's an ordered energy that gets absorbed by laser, but when the wave breaks, then it goes to the individual particles and heating happens. As you can see in these, you must have seen the movie, right? I don't have to run it again. And if you look at plasma and laser perspective, then basically these are the mechanisms through which the irreversibility comes into. So inverse Bremsstrahlung can be viewed as collisions which absorb energy. Resonance absorption is mode conversion from electromagnetic to electrostatic, and then wave breaking, like it happens on the seashore, and phase mixing. Vacuum heating is another one where you have a plasma boundary and the laser falls into it. It extracts the particles out into the vacuum, and in the combined sheath and the electromagnetic field, there is stochasticity which gets generated, the trajectory, and that is you can view it as a boundary nonlinearity. Then the Landau damping is the famous techniques where the wave can damp and give energy to the particle. This is the velocity space mixing. You can have stochastic heating, in which we have done a lot of work recently, where you can, in the combined sheath and electromagnetic fields, the trajectory of particles become chaotic because of the non-linearities, and that can transfer energy. There is a J. Crosby heating. Those who are aware of the literature would know about it. And so these are some of the lists. Now in this context, the targets become important. That what kind of targets do you use? And experimentally people have, I'm very sorry about the picture that I have drawn. There was no light in my house for the last 2 days, and we keep things postponing to the last day. So this is the effect of that. So I just scribbled, so I'm sorry. The energy which gets transferred from the laser, let's say I'm looking at hot electrons generation, then we have some target. Now what shape of the target should one choose? You can have planar targets or target with random corrugations or ordered structure. This is ordered, not through my hand, but, or you can have droplets, liquid droplets or some droplets. Yes. So does it dip? So you have a variety of targets to deal with. So the point is, what do experiments say? Typically, if you look at it, it seems droplet targets appear to be important, and they give best results on energy absorption. Now the puzzle is, why should they be better? Like if you have these targets which are shaped and small, and the laser is incident here, and you compare it with some of the structures here, and the laser is incident here, the field will have the same effects like it will have on the surface, except what? What makes them better, if at all? So that is a fundamental question. And when I collect, and this picture, for instance, was taken for a droplet target here. This is a paper by Angana Mandal et al. In communication physics. And you can see that the droplets, they form, when the laser falls, it forms a cup-shaped structure, and the absorption, it seems, is very good. The hot electron generation is at a higher energy, even for small intensity lasers. That was the observation. But then this could have happened here also. It could have formed a cup-shaped structures and should have led to the same effects. But that, it seems, when I collected the literature, the experiments are not very, like for the same parameter regions, you are doing things to have a one-to-one comparison, because sometimes the intensity is something or something. So I could not, I mean, clearly one cannot have a comparison, but it would be better to have. But overall, if you look at it, and when I talked to people who were promoting the droplet concept, they generally seem to suggest that the droplets are better. Now, so I summarized this. This is based on a couple of papers. Again, I could not put the references properly because I'm going through it. It's right in the process. And the last minute power and internet blackout. So I've not mentioned it, but it's from TFR Group and other Trochitsky et al., some of those papers. And this is the overall summary that I get, that the hot electron temperatures from these intensities, 10 to the power 15 to 16 watts per centimeter square. For droplets, it can produce 200 keV to MeV range. But structure targets depends on geometry, can produce a broad spectrum, but usually needs higher intensity, 10 to the power 17 watts per centimeter square. electron yield relative to flat target, like X-ray yields, etc., they have noticed, and it turns out that magnitude depends on structure, obviously. The X-ray yield here is tens to 100 times hot compared to a very flat polished target, whereas the structure gives only 5 to 10 times. Maximum electron energy is up to several MeVs with modest lasers, and here it reaches only 10 MeVs and with very high intensity lasers. So the best regime seems to be low to moderate intensity lasers for the mesoscopic droplet targets, whereas here the general observations that people have is the droplets are best suited. Now we have computational studies provided us a solution. Where did I get the inspiration from? So we were having a conference in Pondicherry, and there was a beach there. So I, along with my colleagues, we used to visit the beach, and the idea came from there. So you can see, having conferences at exotic places are so important, right? Often these questions are asked, why should you have conferences in exotic places? Why should it be a resort? Why should it be near the beach, etc.? So here is one answer, okay? So if you go to a beach, you will notice, and this is what happened. We were sitting very happily. Usually the waves come, they strike the shore, and beforehand you could see that the wave has a very limited amplitude. So you guess that you won't be, and this is how we were happily sitting, never expecting that it will reach us at that location. And the other instant, we are all wet. And you can see the white foam random, where basically the particles of water have acquired energy. So why did this happen? I started thinking. And if you sit on the beach, you will notice that as there are waves after waves which come to the shore, they hit, and then a lot of white water and foam gets generated, but there is a small remnant wave which reflects back. And this reflected wave then collides with the incoming wave from the sea, and at times they collide in just the right phase or something, that even though both of them are very small amplitude, they would not have overturned to create a wave breaking, but after collision they play havoc, and you get a better wave breaking phenomena, and a lot of energy goes irreversibly into the foam. The gravitational energy of these surface waves gets transferred to foam and white water. So this triggered something, and this is another movie. You can see the foam water coming. There are two waves which collided, and that is where you got a very strong, see? This is one going from this way, one going from that, and when they collide, the effect is very predominant. So what we did is that we simulated droplets. And the answer will lie something which will connect to these surface waves. So we simulated using pick a droplet of a plasma. We gave it a gradient. These are the parameters. And I think these simulations were done with one of my research postdoc who had joined. He was an experimentalist, but while in our group he picked up pick, and then these simulations were carried out by him, Animesh Sharma, your namesake. So this was carried out, and that is why it is important to have control over the laptop. I mean, I really don't like this. So please run it again, I lost it. So okay, I'll tell you, as the wave comes here, laser wave, it generates a lot of surface waves. Both of them collide here and then come back and collide here in two locations. Why are these two locations? Because that is where the electrons are taken into the vacuum, because laser electric field is in this direction. So at this surface, it has a component which extracts electrons in the vacuum. And you should notice, again please run, that these peaks, 3 peaks, occur at the location when the waves are colliding. What are these 3 peaks? Which is the particle energy, this is the electric fields. So particle energy maximizes when the collisions happen. The surface waves collide. Okay? And then we experimented with different size of targets, 50, 30 microns and a slab. The slab had, in same conditions, had very little energy. As you increased the size or decreased the size of the particle, the energy, and there are many peaks, and the peaks are coincident with the time when the waves collide with each other. So you might say, if you keep getting the target is you keep reducing, you will get more and more. No, it will depend on the width of the focal spot. So if you reduce it more, it will be a flat, it will be blast off. So there is an optimum size of target for which you will get the benefit, best results. Cup-shaped plasma indeed. So we took a very small mass ratio, and we could see the dimple. In experiments, this happens because the pre-pulse ionizes and the plasma then starts expansion. So we also saw the cup-shaped plasma. And then the electrons are excited here. They move here as a surface wave, collide here. After collisions, see in ocean also, after collision, creation of white water, there's a remnant wave which moves back. Here also that remnant wave moves back, again collides here and here, generates more particle energy. The usual explanation so far by experimentalists was that you have a pre-ionized cup-shaped plasma which focuses the intensity of the laser. That will happen even on the planar structure target. And then the plasma basically expands, so that when the main pulse comes, this fundamental of the electromagnetic wave generates 2-plasmon decay instability, and that 2-plasmon decay is responsible for electron heating. That phenomena indeed happens. We are not contradicting it. And the best way to observe it, that this, the half frequency in the electrostatic wave that gets generated, which then parametrically interacts with the main laser frequency and generates the 3/2 harmonic. So 800 nanometer. We also observe there is a 3/2 harmonic which gets generated. So this physics is also happening, but this physics will also happen on a structured planar target. Nothing different, right? So this again shows the same thing, but with this is now the same movie in times, different time scales, frames. You can see how particles are extracted, the wave is created, and there is also a bulk wave which gets created. These are traveling in surface, but there is a bulk wave also which collides, and that is why you generate the collision of the bulk wave as well as surface wave creates the increased particle intensity. Very similar to the reflected surface wave from a shore interacting and colliding with the incoming wave and creating havoc. Because even if the incoming wave is of small amplitude, as we got fooled into, with the reflected wave when it collides, it can create havoc, and it really drags quite a long distance inward and suddenly. So this was our observation. This is, I can explain it in detail, but I think I'm short of time, right? So I'll just skip this slide. And 3D simulation which carried out. Now, what is the explanation? The difference lies here. Here also you will create surface waves, but then these surface waves will travel and get dispersed in a surface outwards. They never have a chance to collide again and convert their energy, which will happen in the droplet target. So that is the difference, and that is the fundamental physics which got extracted. How? Through simulations and by visiting exotic places. So that two things are very essential in a scientist's life. Okay. So we got that plasma microglobules are better suited, and that shows the importance of closed surfaces. So I'll end my talk here, and I had one more slide. I don't know what happened. Maybe I didn't save and give it. Anyway, so this was the end of my talk, and any questions I'll be willing to entertain. And meanwhile, I wanted to put an announcement for an international conference, that ICPP, International Congress in Plasma Physics 2026, which is a biennial international conference, will be held, will be organized by India, IIT Delhi, in Hyderabad, Shamirpet. It is a resort where we are holding it, Leonia Holistic, and it is from 7th to 11th December. You all are welcome to participate in great numbers, and a little bit of recollection. This is a long-standing, very important conference, international conference, and the last time it was held in India is 1989. I was a PhD student, about to join IPR at that time, and Professor Kao was the organizer. It was held in Taj Hotel, Delhi, and I was invited here. So I am of that old generation who has attended that conference, and this time I'm inviting. So all of these people, Animesh, Sarvesh, Nishant, and others are local organizers, and there are a lot of people here who are in the local organizing committee. So details they will provide, and so I request you to participate in good numbers. Thank you very much. Any questions?
So in droplet targets,
yeah,
the idea is that waves are generated at the front and back, and they collide.
The waves are generated in the front, surface waves as well as bulk waves. They move along the surface, then again collide at the back, then again come back and collide in the front. So it's a repeated collisions.
Okay, but in structure targets, say something that has a sinusoidal front. So at one of the peaks, say a surface wave is generated that moves up and down. Would another surface wave be generated at the peak next to it, and would they collide? Or
see, it will depend on the laser spot size, right? So the overall it will spread in the transverse direction, the surface wave. So it will never be that efficient as a droplet target. And in droplet, even the bulk waves, here bulk wave will go and do what? Nothing, no chance of colliding. In the droplet, the bulk wave also, it's very much like if you have heard about earthquakes. If you have an earthquake here, there is an antipodal point on the earth where also there is a chance of this energy release that happens, that creates at the antipodal point also, where the bulk waves interact havoc there also. So it's, I think, well known in the context of earthquake, and Earth is also a ball, closed surface. So these collisions keep happening. So once an earthquake is triggered here, and a big earthquake, there are chances that the waves will collide at the antipodal point and create havoc there too. Okay.
Good morning. Thank you, Amitaji. So basically, you are saying that it's like two waves interacting.
Colliding.
So, colliding means interactions. So it's like like interference between the two waves that is giving.
No, not
results.
interference. No, not interference. It's collision.
And they basically two waves interfere with each other, creating constructive and destructive.
No,
amplitude. No.
it is a wave in which, see, Sudeep is there, Sudeep Sen-Gupta, right? In IPR. You must have heard his talk on wave breaking. When does it happen? The waves move, and when the amplitude of it at the highest point exceeds and it overcomes, then the fluid theory breaks. This top one overturns. And when it overturns, it transfers its energy to individual particles. And for that, you need a particular amplitude of the wave.
Yes.
That here, when the two waves, even with the smaller amplitude, when they collide, they can, like, it's almost compressed. And then this peaks up, and then particles get to a random kinetic energy and acquire energy.
Okay.
Get heated up. The last slide had those, where I had shown, it was a complicated slide, it needed time to explain, where I connected that how first the laser energy electromagnetic field gets transferred to ordered kinetic energy of electrons, and how this ordered kinetic energy after each collisions converts into heat. Because in simulation you can track both the ordered kinetic energy and the heat. It's okay?
Thank you, ma'am.